Okay, this is a build I've been trying to do for a long time. I actually tried this at level 44, the Undead Damage Cleric. I didn't have Bear back then, but I had just got Persecute Death, so I just rehab pure like Wisdom and like 250 Strength Dex as good as I can get at the time. And I came out here to Fance and just made a group sad. Just it was not great. So here I went. I got Bear for the specifically for the Strength Stamina. I actually had two clerics. I went Were Hunter on one and Bear on the other for the strength over agility with Lion, just for damage cleric testing on both the clerics. So this has been in the works for a long time. So you can see what I got going here. I got a battery in group. This is a 49 Bard. I think he has his epic, but he's pulling, and there's long pulls to save. Me some pow here and there and catch up. So it's kind of the best case scenario for this, doing as good as it's going to get, right? I'm hitting yellow mobs, so the whacks with the two-hander epic are doing as much as they can do. This character now, without the bard buff, I have 400 strength, 350 dex, 490 wisdom, 140 something pot, and no charisma, trash charisma. And with the bard buff, I got it up to 400 dex for this little demo, and he added all that charisma. You can see the hit points are only 2,700 with cleric buff and with the form, the final form of bear. So, and the AC was only 1,300 or something like that with cleric buff. So, because I have to use a two-hander. So I'm basically a really low hit point, pure damage melee kind of setup here as far as AC hit points, and I'm still just not doing it. Um, so here you see the rotation I'm doing is Torment Death, Persecute Death, which is the two highest, and then Smite, which is not the third highest, but the fourth highest because it's more efficient. And this is about all I can keep up. And I'm casting it as fast as possible, which is the triple because they're all 2 second cast, 3 second recast. And yeah, you can see I'm doing pretty good. The hits are actually every 3.5 seconds, so it's like 1.7 hits a round, so it's not quite half a quad. But with the two-hander, I'm doing respectable damage, something close to what I'd be hitting at on quad one hit with this strength X. I actually bought an offensive mod in the CMs too to try and up it, but yeah, you can see I'm doing pretty good. The one top spell is 1,000, and another one is like 1,150, and then the other one's like 400 or 500. So it's pretty respectable, but it does take a battery, right? Without the battery, it's just you know not great. I can just basically spam the bottom two ones for like a 500 or a 400 hit over and over again. You can see the gear I got is also probably more than someone coming in with this build would try and hit at 50. Um, I got some, the Bone Dukes you're not going to find, and I got that just for extra AC. I got a couple of the honey items from the King and Queen and Chicktar, like the antenna domination. So, it's a little better than what you'd probably have just out of the gate on like someone building this as their main. I only have, I think, 420 CM spent. I've bought most of the pot items. I think I have a couple more pot things I can buy. You see it, I did buy Bear Bite, even though it's not that efficient at 400 strength, just to test it out. I'm not using it. I did, yeah, there was the Dex offensive mod. I bought all those for like, dump charisma for strength. I even bought those. I was up to like the, 20 for 5 pot. I think I'm still missing the 20 for 4 pot, maybe a couple of those. So I could possibly get to like 155 pot range with this. And eventually Godborn or something to up it a little bit more, but it's not, yeah. Anyway, it's not that great. You can see I am pulling if I start it, with my largest spell and keep it up, I can kind of pull it off of Ancient Death and keep it off him. I can't keep it off the Bard, even with his heal tick and, Bard miraculous damage. So, eh, you know, it's not great, but it's kind of respectable with a battery. So, without without the Bard buffs, again, I have 350 dex, 400 strength. This with the buff goes up to 490. And I just tested out. everything on the level 55 dummy here, and I got my ranger here, my proc ranger, for a damage comparison. Now the proc ranger is one of the best, like over, damage over time, efficient, damage dealers out there. But it's a damage dealer. It's a fair comparison. It would be nice to do a whiz comparison because that's kind of more what this is just an undead wizard. But still, it's DPS is all we care about. So this is a real damage dealer. This is the cleric. The ranger has roughly 450 CMs compared to the 420, so very comparable places. The ranger also has some gear that is a little better than you'd find on someone that just played it as their main without additional stuff. So these guys kind of got to this point, and then I did a ton of raiding and got you know slightly better gear, probably an extra 50 stats total or something like that. It doesn't matter too much. I did a Dex int build, so on the 55 dummy that'll probably be better because the procs will hit almost full a lot, but the damage is going to be lower than if you were like hitting yellows or something. You'd probably just do a strength Dex and lower it. But yeah, uh, quad is 6 seconds, so 1 round exactly for a quad for 4 hits. 0 offensive mods because he's an elf. 530 Dex, 381 strength. So this is a much better setup for a strength Dex. So I should probably dump more strength or more Dex on him. The reason I went more to strength is because one, it was easy with bear, but also I was trying to get bite the best chance possible for efficiency, and that just didn't work out. So I should dump some of that strength for Dex and probably do a little better. But anyway, I have the epics for 550 is damage, and I am doing an average of 351 a hit on the level 55 dummy. So 1400 damage around just on quads. I have 98 pot because I had sold a lot of my stuff to buy snares, which I'm going to sell back for pot CMs. But, I could add another 20 or 30, but it doesn't make much difference. Um, so the most efficient things here, I'm doing the Dex buff for 6 pot and Nature Blade, the proc buff for another 12 pot. This procs with my 460 int, which is huge. It's procking a lot, 60, 70% of the time. So I'm getting 818 damage per round just on the procs. So, yeah. And then I'm just using the blade spells. I know the bow ones are more efficient, but I just find it more fun to go full blade and not have to swap back and forth. So I'm doing about 2.8 and 2.5 damage per POW, whereas the bow abilities, the low ones, can be like 4 or 5 damage per POW. But still, it's so if I'm casting these on recast, it costs this much pot, which basically these two plus the other stuff sucks up my entire 98. So it's basically the lowest one and the highest one are the most efficient at this 400 strength. Sucks up all my pot with my other buffs, and I'm doing a total of, with no battery and group, 2,700 damage per round on the Ranger. The weird thing is, like, some of these middle blades do less damage per POW. Actually, this one's a little better, the Dazzling. This one, the 29, is just, I don't know. It just, the pattern doesn't feel right to me. Usually the lower ones, you're doing less damage, so they're a little more efficient. And it's a nice trade-off, but it just seems a little all over the place, but kind of all the same. Anyway, uh, on the durability side, I mean, 771 AC, but if I get a cleric buff, this goes up to about 1100. I mean, you can look at the hit points. I have more hit points, the same AC. So got to do a two-hander here. I should probably look into, because I'm wearing bracers and it's all plate. Why I'm a little less. Some of it, I think I'm wearing leather legs on that one, just because it's the best Dex Whiz I could find. So I could probably get this up to 1500 without trying too hard. But still, but the hit points are lower because you have to dump so many stats into this. Even with, like, this one's a Were Hunter, and this one is full on bear. So yeah, you're building a glass cannon here. That's not much of a cannon. So yeah. Anyway, the cleric, uh, you know, Dex Whiz pot build, 2 hits every 3.5 seconds, at 400 strength. Uh, yeah, I'm doing an average of only, an average of 316 a hit compared to the 351 on this dude. But of course, it's with a two-hander with more damage. If I up the dex, I could probably get that even like 100 higher. But anyway, you're only doing two hits, not even two hits around. So it's only 540-ish damage per round on just the normal hits, unfortunately, right? And that's a lot of stat investment for just that. But there's no, it's cheap damage. So what do you do? There's not a whole lot of ways. Like I could add another 10, 20 pot, but it's not going to really outdo the damage I can get from that investment anyway. So I could dump that a lot and get a lot more hit points. But yeah, anyway, I have 143 pot, which is just a ton and almost, you know, maybe a cleric at 50 could get to 160 if you're really pushing stuff. Anyway, I did buy the brand CMs, which are unfortunately a three cast. And as you can see in the video, if you go back, I do try casting that sometimes, but you pretty much, because of the three cast, unless you're pulling with it, you're going to miss the first quad. So the things usually die in about three quads, so you really only have two quads worth of like brand damage, and that's a proc on their side, so it depends on their intelligence. So mobs typically seem to have about 100 intelligence, so you're going to be procking a little over one time per quad if it quads. So it does turn out to be over two quads, 1500 damage. If you're killing the mobs slower, it gets more efficient. But this does 7 damage per pow, even doing that. So it's a very efficient spell. It's just annoying because the three cast and you're just watching that first quad do nothing and just kind of catches up at the end and you never see the numbers. It just kind of, it's not the funnest thing to use. And it's not so amazing that like you need to use it. In fact, the Smite and Ward Death, the two lightest ones for the undead nukes, do basically the same. So I prefer to just use those as much as possible. And yeah, the bite at 400 strength is only 3 damage per pow and not worth it. So I'm going to sell that back, I think, unless I can get up to like even 500 strength. It's not going to be worth it. And it wasn't lightning fast. I thought it was going to be instant, but it seemed to like have a little delay on being able to cast something after it. So I couldn't even like work it in for a little quick like burst. But anyway, the persecute death and the other one are in the 4.5 kind of range for damage per pow. So basically, the most efficient thing you can do is these just back at back, just do them on recast, and you can basically cast each of these once per round. And then every other mob or so, that right there will take up 119 pot, just going back and forth between those every round, right? And out of my, that leaves you with about 25 pot left over. So I can cast like, one of these every other mob and slowly bleed POW, or this every other mob and slowly bleed POW. So basically, I can throw a Torment Death or a Brand every other mob. For let's say the Brand because it's more efficient. It adds up to like 250 damage per round on average, casting it every other mob. Um, and the bottom two here, another like 800 damage per round. So total between the two is no battery, 1600 damage per round on average. Which compare that again to the Ranger, 2700 damage per round. So it's basically half of a Ranger, no battery. Yeah. So I mean, for this to work, like, and you see, I'm not casting heals during any of this. I'm using this as strictly a damage dealer. Actually, I built this thing a week ago and didn't get around to testing it out because it's hard to find a fans group for a cleric damage dealer. So I ended up just raiding this guy. I've done Lord Chardith, I've done a couple dragons, everything with this guy as a stack healer with his current 150 base charisma with the gear on. And that actually worked kind of well. Like the mods are not so high that that's disastrous, right? I was still an effective stack healer and things. It worked great. I did a double, just my cleric, my other cleric with good, 490 char, and this one with like, the bard buff on him was maybe 250 char total, and the two of them were enough to heal Lord Chardith for a couple goes without any problem. So, doing this full damage build really didn't hurt me as a stack raid cleric, but still, it really just doesn't. I'm not healing in group. I'm playing strictly a damage dealer role, and I just cannot substitute for a damage dealer. I'm half a damage dealer. I'm basically a weak pet. But yeah, with the damage in group, it got better with the battery in group. So with a battery, what I was doing before was these three spells back to back to back to back to back, right? So I figured it was about every 8 seconds I could cast all three of them, which gives me, um, you know, almost 2,000 around just on nukes. So if you did have like a, high POW, whatever, cleric, whiz char, and a battery in group, like a bard going full time, you could do about 2K damage per round, just sitting in the back, not whacking them at all, no strength, no dex, right? Which isn't bad. You're almost a damage dealer, but you're not a damage dealer with POW. You're a damage dealer without POW when you have a battery on you. So it's not good. Um, so yeah, again, that would be 2,500 total with the whacking, with the two-hander, and the full time working hard on the three chaining nukes. And you're still only 92%. And that's with a full on bard on you, a 49 epic bard going full out. Because total, that would be 407 pot, which is basically a full bard plus my 144. So yeah, the problem holding these guys back really is the damage to POW. Like a wizard has plenty of options to kick this up more closer to 200. Right? They have the harvest line. You either have more efficient spells, like your lower spells can really hit this. This is actually pretty efficient, but um, yeah, your harvest line, the POW path, or the clash path is just more efficient nukes. You can just do better than this. The extra whatever percentage of pot. Plus Dex is going to be a power stat, so you're going to be, whacking away naturally for a lot more, even though a lot of people don't do that. But yeah, so I think they need some help. Like, if this was like it, the idea I keep bringing up on forums, which there's several ways to do this, but if you made like Brand a one cast two pow, like zero power, right? Then you just cast that on every mob as soon as possible. You get it in for the first quad. You'd be doing this like, pretty solid, like 500 damage per round, 700 damage per round for almost free, right? And that would make the rest of this kind of stack up on top of it, and the rest of this stack up on top of it a lot better, right? You get a lot closer. And then maybe just improving some of the damage to POW on this a little bit would go the rest of the way, because I was really looking for like if this was like 80%, it would be incredible, right? And even with the okay, fine. When you get a battery in a group, you get 92%. That's not bad actually, because the ranger, like you kind of hit limits pretty quick. Also, where maybe I'm adding another 500 around or something. So this kind of gets to like a 70% right now of a ranger with power, which isn't bad. So like the actual damage of these things, I don't mind, right? They seem pretty good to me. Maybe throw a couple offensive mods to get that up and reward the strength dex a little more. That would also help. Um, yeah, just the brand alone, I think would kick you up to more of like closer to the 80% range. Um, yeah. Anyway, so yeah, at the moment, it is not worth it. It is not viable, as expected, right? But yeah, some minor tweaks maybe. It is kind of unfortunate that like I'm hearing from people that were EXO, a few people that tried it, like at least Silent remembered his stuff that it was also kind of not viable. The POW was too harsh even with EXO, and that's waiting for 750 or what 775 CMs just to get the first MCA. It's all just pure late game. It'd be nice if you could just hit the 80% throughout, like at level 20, all the way up to be able to sub in as a damage dealer at undead camps only, right? Just for help build groups easier, fill a couple roles. Yeah, that's all I had.